I told Rich we needed him. He's good at that.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our November meeting of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Safety Committee. Thank you all for being here. I know this is a busy time of year, so thank you for carving out some time as we approach the holidays and like. We've got a pretty full agenda. For those of you, if there's anyone joining us online, thank you for utilizing that technology. We have a couple folks here in the audience as well, and we'll give everyone an opportunity to contribute in a moment. So let's go ahead and get started with the, if you can cue the, okay. So this is our meeting. Our plan for today will be to we'll call the meeting to order. We'll review the agenda. The agenda is shown above. We'll go over the minutes from our meeting in August, as well as the workshop that we had back in October for the idea generation. We want to devote some time to welcome Bob Cavallo, our new member, and we'll open it up for any safety contacts. We have one in there. And then we'll give an opportunity for the reports from the town, Terry and Chief Foley and Julie. And then we'll sort of shift into sort of our business going forward. We'll think about our focus areas for 2025, the bigger ones that we've already aligned on. Maybe think about who wants to take sort of a lead on some of those individual pieces. That'll be a working meeting. Then we're going to move into trying to consolidate some of the ideas we got from our idea generation workshop back in October. It was really successful. I think we had 20, 30 people here.
We had a good number of people.
And a number of people have sort of followed up with some emails subsequently or notes, so that was really what we were looking for. We'll talk about meeting dates for next year, draft meeting dates, and then any comments from the public. So do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Okay, first?
Second.
Thank you. Vote?
Aye.
Unanimous, okay. Next item, order of business, is the minutes from 8/29. You all should have, you all got these electronically. I didn't get too many input or upgrades from it. So Christy, thank you very much. With all the other meetings in between, we didn't get a chance to formally sort of put these into the record. So I'm not going to go through those, but you do have a copy of that. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from 8/29 as presented?
I so move.
Thank you, Diane.
Second.
Okay, take a vote. Is everyone okay?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you. We also have, though it's not minutes per se, we do have the notes from the workshop that we had from our idea generation workshop. So you all have a copy of that, and I know you all got a copy of that in the email. Teresa, thank you very much for capturing all that. That was a very free-flowing and lively meeting, so it was I was amazed how he caught all that. And we actually, a couple folks made some upgrades tweaks to it to upgrade. So do we have a motion to...
Could I just ask, just if it's not too much
Absolutely.
trouble, could, when they finalize these notes, can we get my name spelled correctly, the last name?
Oh, that's,
I know I keep bringing this up. I'm starting to feel like Rodney Dangerfield.
sorry about that.
Sorry.
No, it's no problem. It's just, I think once we get into a pattern, we'll be good.
Yeah.
So,
I know, Art, but you've been a vocal member of our team for 2 years. A pattern needs to be, we need to get right.
I'm guessing it's spell check is probably overriding
Yeah.
something, but if you wouldn't mind, that'd be appreciated.
We'll get it. I know we've changed a couple times, but
Yep.
we'll get it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We apologize. Actually, a shout out to Art. Where we were doing our parade recently, or the return to after the
Returns
election,
Day.
Return
Returns
Day
Day.
in Georgetown. We're going. We got the trolley. We're going around the circle right in Georgetown. Place is packed,
Yep.
right? I've never even been to that thing before. It was packed, especially in that circle. And I happened to look up, and who do I see? Art. Art's waving away, and so that was a pleasant surprise to have one of our citizens from Bethany there.
It was a very successful event. It was great to see Bethany so actively participating. So thank you and Teresa for being there. And again, you could tell from the crowd I mean, it was much appreciated and very successful, so good job.
Right. And it was a great, this is sort of related, but it was a great effort by all the police organizations in Sussex County, I guess, all had representatives there to help with the, sort of the flow, the crowd control, the lineups and the like. So it was really sort of a great show of collaboration of all our public service folks, particularly police, working together on that. That was really cool.
Good day.
Okay, so do we have a motion to, we're going to get into this in a little bit more detail, the ideas from our idea generation workshop, but do we have a motion to accept these as presented?
I so move.
Thank you, Diane. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bob. Bob, your first. Have it be noted. Thank you, Bob. And take a vote?
Aye.
Approve? Okay, great. So let's go into, I'd like to introduce Bob Cavallo formally to our group. He was actually approved by the town council at our meeting last Friday, Friday before?
Last Friday.
All these days fly together a little bit, but unanimously approved. I had the honor of giving just a little bit of an overview for Bob. But so without further ado, Bob, if you'd like just to introduce yourself to our team and the community and anything that pertinent.
Yes. Again, my name is Bob Cavallo. I've been a homeowner here since 1998. These past couple of years, I am now a full-time resident. At the end of this year, I'm retiring, so I will be spending a lot more of my attention and hopefully to help out the community in any way that we can. I know over the years, since we've been here for a long time, the improvements have been greatly appreciated, but there's always room for improvement. I have 46 years engineering experience in civil, chemical, and mechanical, so wherever my input can be of some value to this committee, you know, whatever capacity I can serve is my intent.
Great. Well, thank you, Bob, and welcome. I'd like to
Thank you.
thank you for putting your hand up and joining our team. I think you'll find it's a very engaging, very energetic team that really wants to try to make a difference. So your background, experience, and contributions and passion is going to fit in extremely well. So thank you and welcome. So with Bob joining us, I thought it's always a good opportunity, and we're actually doing this sort of for the whole town government right now, but it was an opportunity to go back and reflect just for a second, not just for Bob's benefit, for all our benefit. This is actually our charter, right? This hasn't changed over the last year or so, but I think it's good to occasionally just go back and reflect on what is it we're doing, right? And what is it we're here? And we're really here as a part of town government, as advice and counsel to the town council, and help with the overall effort around safety in our area. And you can go through and see the scope of that research and evaluate different conditions, issues. While we think about recommendations, make sure we're thinking about our other partners here, whether it's DelDOT, police, and the like. Think about how we share safety information. A lot of what we do is about that. And then the last piece is about research and evaluate safety practices in other towns. It's sort of the benchmarking idea. So that's sort of what our scope is. I know we don't need to go back and look at this every month, but does that sort of still ring true? Is there anything we need to add, or does that sort of capture it pretty well?
I think that captures it.
Okay.
I can't read.
Good. Okay. So the safety contact I wanted to share today, and this was actually something I saw at the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, and it's sort of similar to our conversation that we talk, or our theme we have around WAVE. Now this is a little bit different. This is for pedestrian, right? And you can certainly weave WAVE right into this, right? Wait, assess, verify, and then enter an intersection. And this is just highlighting, you know, sort of the key things, to not be distracted. There was literally a lady I talked to about 2 weeks ago. She was crossing the street at Garfield and Atlantic, and literally, I mean, it was 2 weeks ago, so it wasn't that busy, and it was during the week. But her head was down the whole time as she was, I don't know, I put my phone away, I guess, but she was literally walking down, head down as she crossed the street. I happened to be a few steps behind her, noticed it. She stopped to look at the bookstore window, and I just had a very pleasant conversation with her. I said, ma'am, just noticed, I know we're having a great time, it's a beautiful day, but it looked like you weren't really paying attention when you're crossing the street. And she said, well, there's no one here. Right? Typical reaction. But then we explored, we just talked about it. I said, I know, I'm not trying to, it's just we all need to be aware, because that's the kind of behavior that we always want to be checking. Because if, that could be that one time where you have your head down, you don't think anybody's there, and a driver comes through. So it was an example of a very pleasant conversation, engaging somebody, and hopefully, planted the seed for her to sort of maybe next time she crosses the street, not to be distracted, right? So, making eye contact with the driver. I try to be visible, and the idea being having reflective clothing or the like, not jaywalking, okay? Staying alert all the time, looking for unanticipated situations, a driver maybe going too fast, or a bike coming up across an intersection, not thinking I want to stop. That could be a situation, and then obviously watch for turning vehicles. So those are just a reminder that sort of begged and borrowed from the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. I just thought it was a good reminder for us. Yeah, does anyone else have any safety contacts? Please,
Well,
Bob.
not safety contacts, but to be bright. And just to give you an example here, it happened here this past Monday. I'm go to work early in the morning and driving down Route 1. Somebody on the side of the road walking, and you didn't see him until you're right there almost next to him. But that be bright is very important, especially now with the time change and being dark until 6 in the morning. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, the visibility really is key, and the fact that we've been handing out these bike lights, I think, is wonderful. That makes a huge difference. I mean, during the day, it's nice to be able to pick these things up, but you're right, Bob, at dusk, it's particularly difficult to see people.
Right.
And especially with kids, a lot of times, if they've got those flashers on, we're going to be able to pick them up visually so much more quickly.
Yep.
So again, I think the fact that, we've been able to distribute all these bike lights over the last couple of years, I think has really contributed to safety, and I'm hoping that we will continue to do that in the future, because I think it does make a difference. I mean, again, when I see people out at night, granted, there are some people at the end of the day, they want to get a little exercise, it's dark early, I get that. But, again, if they can have some type of visual thing on, whether it's a reflective gear or some type of light just so they can be picked up, that does make a huge difference, because, again, there are narrow streets here a lot of times, and, it's hard to see things. So anything people can do to just make themselves more visible, especially as you get, into the evening, I think is very important.
Right. Good.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
We
Go ahead,
might-
Diane.
We might want to think about more reflective strips and things of that sort to give as giveaways.
Yeah.
I thought, Julie, it was in your mind.
Actually, it's interesting, because one of the citizens I was talking to as I was walking early in the morning, we got talking, and we were talking about sort of building off your conversation, and his point was the same thing. It would be helpful if people had some type of reflective. Karen said, well, we've given out lights, we've given out, so maybe there's an idea. Maybe we can do something with some vests with the wave.
Reflective stickers.
Or reflective stickers, something like that. But the key challenge with even that, right, is always engaging people, their beliefs, their mindsets, so that they want to wear them, not because we're standing there or
Right.
somebody on Chief Foley's force is there, but because they recognize that as something that's going to keep them safe, right? So that's always our challenge. But
Yeah.
go ahead, Julie, do you have something? I'm sorry.
That was it, I think.
Okay.
So the backpacks that
Yeah,
the
I was
police
thinking about- they were good.
department gave out to the J1 students.
Very good.
They had yellow reflective
Awesome.
stripes on them.
Yeah.
I didn't ever see anyone use them. That's, I think, our bigger challenge, but they were given out.
Yep.
I used it. No, but you could just put it on your back. The
Yeah.
whole bag is yellow.
Yeah.
It's good.
The Office of Highway Safety, excuse me, whenever they come to our events, they pass out armbands or like calf muscle bands that we put on kids. We don't actually put them on, but we hand them to the parents to put on. Office of Highway Safety, usually that's when they coincide in our bike checkpoints. They actively pass out those reflective bands too, which are great.
Great. Super, thank you. So let's move on to our reports from both the town, the police department, and from Julie with our whole activity. So Terry, would you like to, please? Thank you.
Yes, good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Terry.
So I'm to give a wrap-up on the 2024 accomplishments, and they're very good. Number one on the list would be Collins Street Pedestrian Bicycle and Pathway. This turned out, while it was originally contentious, it turned out to be an extremely positive project and a great addition to our community to promote safety. The other thing was the rapidly flashing beacon, and I always screw that up, light installed at Ashwood. Again, another great safety measure. And then we worked on two projects, or working on two projects. One has been accomplished, the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. Unfortunately, Ocean View did not do that, but we were able to slow traffic down as it was coming into Bethany, and that's another really good project. And then upgrading the intersection. We're looking at plans now to get the intersection here at Garfield and Atlantic upgraded. So, and I just wanted to give a little piece of information. A couple weeks ago, the former mayor and I met with the mayor from Rehoboth Beach, and I have to say, was asking about all of our committees, and we were very complimentary, and I hope your ears were buzzing about this committee, because they're a big service to our community and just outstanding as far as public safety goes. So we're very proud of this committee.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate it. And again, just wanted to highlight some of we did a lot, there were a lot of things done last year, but those are sort of some of the big sort of like would fall into infrastructure, that require some work and effort and bricks and mortar. So thank you, Terry. Appreciate it. And thanks for sharing your word with the Rehoboth folks and the like. So, yeah. Chief?
Yep. Happily, no accidents to report. Usually I give an update throughout summer months, early spring, the more motorists and pedestrians and cyclists that are on the roadway. No accidents are reported to involve any pedestrian, bicycle, moped, electric bike, or anything of the nature. If anybody's noticed, DelDOT has reactivated the LED sign there at 1 and Oakwood Street. They told me when they erected it, it's actually for emergency messaging for the bridge closure. And they said, we'll give it to you guys and interpret whatever message you want to put on there for pedestrian safety. So it's been blinking throughout summer, pedestrian activity ahead. Don't think the town wanted to take approach with any fines and money things and stuff like that, just very generic messaging. Mm-hmm. They said you can have it till October. It went black for a while, and I noticed yesterday it's back on, says pedestrian activity ahead. So I did want to give them some kudos for that. After our last meeting, I shot over to Ocean View and I attended a year-end meeting for the Mariners Bethel ABC bike program. They had maybe 15 or 20 members in attendance. I obviously spoke on their involvement and our success with our J1 student program that we had, and I give them kudos. I think that they not only helped us run it, they brought a majority of kids, because the businesses were not listening. They brought majority of the kids and kind of dangled the bikes over them to get them to the event. They thought that was very successful. They gave the town and the pedestrian bike safety committee major kudos for doing that. It was a very informative event. I gave my update for what we do with our bike checkpoints, our J1 involvement, and what we as a committee do. I also invited them to our early 2025 meeting involving other agencies, invited them to attend. That way we can get some feedback and some positive opportunities to move forward and make the J1 seminar bigger and better. Last, we had another year-end review. This was with DART. If anybody remembers the Department of Area Resort Transit, the buses that shuttle J1 students around, they were in attendance at the J1 seminar, and they actually brought DART bus passes for free for some J1 students. They actually have an Uber Lyft program that they can enroll in through the businesses. So we can't do that as a town, but if businesses come forward and work with DART, DART has the opportunity to give them a free account for an Uber and Lyft through this program, which is great. They're back on board for our J1 seminar next year. They're going to have a year ahead meeting in January that we'll be attending. I think it's January 22nd, I believe. They're on board if we host another J1 seminar. I'm going to try to get them in better contact with area. Now, we're kind of limited on what we can do outside of town limits, but the businesses in town that employ J1 students, I'm going to get them contact with this company so the students can get free Ubers and Lyfts, which is it keeps them safe. That's it. That's all I have to report.
That's awesome, Chief. Thank you. You know, what's really, and I know I've commented on this a couple times, but remember about a year ago when we were talking about our plan for this coming year and the passion and energy that Chief Foley, it was probably Sergeant Foley at the time, right?
I miss those days.
But, you know, just the passion and energy he exhibited for this whole idea of this J1 seminar. And we were just sort of sitting back, well, yeah, that sounds great. But there were all kinds of roadblocks. And you just sort of took the ball and rolled through that and really created a great event that got a lot of great coverage. And I'm not worried about the coverage, but the impact it had with folks. And so, you know, that's the beauty of this. You know, when things work, we can just continue them and grow them and make them even more impactful. So, and it just, you know, the fact that Chief Foley, with all the things he has on his plate now, continues to be the representative of the police department at this meeting. I know I always expect for someone else to show up because you got a lot of things on your deck, and we get that. But it really shows the passion and commitment that he has. So again, Chief, thank you for that, and appreciate it. Okay, Julie, if you want to talk about sort of from a program activity.
Yeah, so if you recall, last year I presented a list of the top 10 suggested ways to reach people with the WAVE initiatives. Those were actually doubled for this year. We did the top 10, which were Fire and Ice, Ocean to Bay Bike Tour, the concert series, Poseidon Festival, Seaside Craft Show, Movies on the Beach, both museums, Nature Center, 4th of July celebration, the Kids and Teen Nights, Wednesdays in July, and Holiday Happenings, which we will repeat next year. But in addition to that, we had our police events, we had the Bethany Life app and newsletter, paid advertising, events listings on the Chamber and the Southern Delaware tourism sites, emails, community bulletin boards, digital sign, BBLA was a big help, video clips, website, and partnering with the library. So we're going to continue that, but the result of that has been really good for WAVE. Our reach on our socials have been about, the J1 seminar was 1,500, that it reached that many people. The videos on YouTube are a combined 1,300 views, excuse me. And then our survey results, we polled the audience members from this summer's events. And out of 195 responses, 62% said they followed the WAVE guidelines, which I was pretty surprised by that. So 34% were unfamiliar with WAVE, which tells us that's what we need to focus on and push a little bit for that. And out of those 195, 27% were walkers to the bandstand and 4% rode their bikes. And that could have been because it was evening. So, but that kind of helps us hone in on what we need to focus on. And some of the comments they had were organized local bike rides, which, unless they're not familiar with the Chamber ones, that's something we might be able to work on, and more places for bikes, and that's something that we've touched on with the bike racks and things. So I think it was a successful year.
Awesome. I think that's an understatement, Julie. You're being very modest. You know, and I almost feel like I want to repeat the same thing I said to Chief Foley, to Julie. You know, she has a full-time job around all the programs, activities, and, you know, at the last council meeting, you know, you think about the downtime, down season, right? Everyone takes a deep breath. Julie went through about 5 minutes of everything that's happening between now and, like, April down here. I'm like, holy cats, it's not... But there's a tremendous amount. But Julie, again, your passion, your energy, you're looking for every avenue to connect with people, and with your background and experience, expertise is awesome. And plus, it's just this buoyant, upbeat, we can do kind of attitude. So again, thank you, Julie.
Could I just jump in on a couple of things here, if I may? First off, again, tremendous job. I'm so impressed with all the work you're doing. So thank you very much. Do you, again, just kind of looking ahead here for the next couple of months, do you think that there would be value in us, in other words, the team here holding a table at Holiday Happenings or Fire and Ice?
Well, Holiday Happenings, we did give out the stockings last year with the brochures and the shirts.
Okay.
I'm not sure if there would be room for a table, honestly. Those
Okay.
events get so packed, and even at the tree lighting. But to have that information on hand, people did appreciate that. So you're welcome to come and help hand those out.
No, I'm wondering if you needed volunteers. I mean, like I said, if you need something here for holiday happenings, I'd be happy to help out. And the same thing with Fire and Ice, if you want to have a table for that.
Okay, Fire and Ice, we might have that'd be a good idea to have a table. Because actually the theme this year is a weekend for the books, and the book we're focusing on is The Three Billy Goats Gruff. So people have to walk across the bandstand to get past the troll and to the goats. So once you see it, yeah, real goats. We'll have real goats. Once you see it in action, it'll make sense. But it kind of can tie into walking, and we can have them off to the side and just kind of hand out some things to them and say, take a listen to this and understand a little bit what we're trying to do. And
Okay. Well, like I said, if you need somebody for either event, I'd be happy to do so.
Okay.
I mean, if you've got all this covered, that's great. I remember last year we did Fire, you and I were there at the table for
Yes,
Fire and
yes,
Ice.
for the
And I
movie.
thought we actually had some good conversations with people.
yeah.
So if you want to do that again, just let me know, and I'd be happy to show up.
Yeah, we could, in fact, I'm trying to work with Clear Space to do a kids show during the day. So that would probably be a good opportunity. So hold that thought, and I'll get back to you on that. I appreciate your input.
Okay, great.
Yeah, thanks.
The second area, if I may, I'm trying to figure out where to categorize these things, but I think there are two areas, since we're at the end of the year, it might be good to just kind of get a little update on if we could. The first is, I know that they have been working to try and deal with this situation on Pennsylvania Avenue where we have the flooding, that basically takes away the sidewalk and many times the even part of the road, let alone the shoulder, for people to walk on. And I noticed, over the summer and again, even in the last week, it has been difficult to get through there. And I've seen people walking in the street. And I'm wondering, has there been, what is the status on the effort to try and, I think they were talking about trying to put some type of damming structure further inland up by Salt Pond to try and alleviate the issue. And has there been reportable progress at this point? Because again, I think from a bang for the buck standpoint, we could really get a lot of traction in terms of improving safety if we could either eliminate or, drastically reduce that flooding through there. And again, this is just my perspective because I walk through there a lot. But was just curious to see if anybody has any updates on that.
The permits are tied up at DENREC. And at this point, it's kind of a lame duck administration there, because with a new governor, there will be a new head of DENREC come January. So we have to be patient.
Okay. And the same thing may be true with my second area of concern would be the North Bethany, safety issue there. We had the meeting last spring at the library, which was very productive. And I mean, it was great turnout. People were very, very interested. So I think in the community, there's a great deal of interest in terms of dealing with the speed and other issues between the bridge and the town of Bethany. And I thought there was a lot of really nice proposals presented. And again, even if you look at their website right now, it does say that there's going to be a fall follow-up meeting.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard anything. And again, it could be a situation where, again, you've got turnover coming up and
Right.
there's maybe not an appetite to pursue this. But if there's any way we could perhaps encourage people to focus and address that. Because, from my experience, you don't ever put something in writing unless you're like 99% sure you can hit the target.
Yes.
So the fact that this was out there, and it still is out there, I'm guessing that some headway has been made, and anything we can do, I think, to encourage them to move forward on that would be appreciated.
I do think they're starting to put the flashing beacons in.
Okay.
Carl had mentioned that, and I was up there. Yep.
Crosswalk in.
They're starting to do the electrical work. They've dug up the median in certain places. So you're right about the meeting, but they are at least they're making some progress
Okay.
right now.
Maybe both those issues, the
Right.
flooding as well as the area, maybe we need to pursue this back early next year when new
I think
people
that's
come
right.
into it.
Maybe February.
But I think in both those instances, if those can be implemented, we'll get a lot of bang for the buck in terms
Agreed.
of safety.
Oh, you're right.
So,
Definitely right.
So just to piggyback off of Teresa's comment and Art, that whole issue with North Bethany, I think that'll be a great conversation to have from Del Dot and the North Bethany Coalition in March, when we bring our communities together to sort of talk about progress, next steps, right?
Right. Well, that's what I don't know if, I'm sorry to interrupt, but when I sent you some suggestions in terms of ideas for metrics for next year, I put something in there about perhaps write a letter to Del Dot talking about the need to make sure that signage, when it's placed on the shoulders of Route 1, is moved over to the point where it's, bikers and runners and walkers can safely get by.
Right.
Or that, some avenues created for them. So again, if we sent something as a committee or the town, that would have impact. But if it came from multiple jurisdictions together,
No.
I think that would have a much stronger impact.
Right.
So maybe this is something to go over in March, and maybe if we put a list of issues together that might be worth sending to Del Dot, especially if they have a new administration that's eager to make a positive impact, that might work.
Right.
So just a thought.
No, I absolutely, and I agree with you 100% in terms of trying to exercise our sort of collective impact of not just one little community of Bethany, which is a square mile, but all of the, if you're biking, running, walking, it's not just in that 1 square mile, it's the whole thing. So it's how we partner with our neighbors and communities, right?
Right.
And sort of bring that effort and focus together, so it's not just viewed as sort of this is just a North Bethany Coalition issue, or this is a Bethany issue. It's all our issues. It's a coastal town kind of issue, right?
Right.
So, the other thing I just wanted to highlight for the just one thing.
I just
Mayor.
wanted to pick up on Art's thing about the dam. I mean, it's not something that the town can move on. This is something that has been studied for over 2 decades and has run into roadblocks at every way.
Right.
And also, there was this whole thing about whether it was even feasible, and that went on for a number of studies until they got better at the technology to be able to determine what the effect would be on Ocean View. We met with Ocean View several times because they were concerned that we would be causing flooding in Ocean View. And we were finally able, after about 2 years of going through additional studies, to assure them and to get them comfortable with the idea that our dam would not flood Ocean View, and which was a genuine concern. And then we had to meet with Representative Gray and Doug Hudson and all those people and get them comfortable with it, because Gerald Hocker was opposed to it. He thought that it was going to cause flooding further down. So this has been going on for years. It's finally at a point, and I would say thanks to Cliff, because there were a lot of points at which people wanted to give up on the idea, and they didn't want to invest the money in further studies, and he always advocated for it and made sure his perseverance is because where we are today. But the final thing now is the permitting, and what we found recently is that DENREC has said that they were granted the area where we're going to be building the dam by the Department of the Interior, with the condition that it would never be used for anything else but parkland. So that's the issue we're working with right now, to try and convince them that this is something that would be good for the benefit of everybody, and to find a way. So this is something that's ongoing, and there have been roadblocks at every step of the way for over 2 decades. So it's not something that simply the town can say, we're going to build a dam and we're going to prevent flooding on Pennsylvania Avenue. It's a long project, and so I wouldn't say it's going to be done next year. We have no idea when it's going to be done. We just have to keep plugging away. And as Teresa said, with the new administration, and hopefully DENREC would be more receptive to the idea of being able to build it. So that's what the hope is right now.
Thank you very much for that information. No, I think the town has done a tremendous job. I realize that there's a lot of moving pieces here, and it's not an easy project. It just, like I said, when I spend a lot of time over there, I just hate to see people out in the highway, or not in the highway, but in the street, because again, you got cars and you got bikers and walkers, and it becomes dicey.
No, it
but I
is very-
appreciate everything the town's
It's very
done.
difficult, and it's, like the people who live there refer to it as Lake Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lake Bethany.
But
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, because that was a great perspective. That's sort of what I wanted to add as well, is just that some of this stuff can be frustrating because of the time it takes, because of all the agencies and all the handoffs and all that. But I do want to compliment the former mayor, town manager, assistant town manager. This has been a journey, and no one's backing off. We're continuing to push, and so being diligent and having that, not losing focus on it, I think is really one of the key things. So, yeah.
Hey, Mickey, can I ask a question? It kind of goes back to North Bethany, and they're going to put that crosswalk there. You know, coming over that bridge, and I think I made that comment when they had that working group meeting. Coming over that bridge at 50 miles an hour, is there any way that we are able to influence DelDOT to reduce traffic speeds?
That came up that was one of the suggestions, and they don't seem receptive to it, but I think they weren't receptive to doing it on 26 for years and years and years, so you just have to keep asking.
Yeah, and I guess that's another question I have. Are we able to influence DelDOT? And I'll give you an example. At Oakwood, when they put the blinking light there at Bethany proper, the walkway was on the other side of that intersection, which kind of made the natural flow of people walking, because you tend to walk on the right-hand side. And they're putting it on the left-hand side. So now you got people walking out of that development on the left-hand side, and you got cars making that turn, cars from the other side making the turn. And then Bethany proper has that dog leg right there. And it was just a suggestion to the DelDOT people who were putting all this stuff together. I go, doesn't make sense that you're flipping the side. So my comment is, do we have the ability to influence, during the design phase, things for common sense, just to look at things?
I would say yes, Bob. Not always how that's being heard and registered. But yes, the answer is yes. So specifically around that intersection, because of the timing it took with DelDOT to get the right funding and everything, we literally the town paid for that under the mayor and others' leadership to do the design, do the study, and actually put it in place, and for them just to come along and hook it up, basically, right? And that was sort of the town saying, we want to get that crosswalk there because we've got a community there that depends on it, right? So.
And I think also there was something about the way the intersection was on the west side of Route 1. They had to orient it that way.
Yeah. But to answer your question more broadly, I don't want to, because I do think DelDOT listens, right? I think when you came to the workshop that Art's talking about for the north of Route 1 and those crosswalks, that whole point was to get input from the community. I know the chief has had interactions with DelDOT on specific issues, and because of his stature, his presence, his credibility, they listen, right? And I think, so yes, the answer is yes. And could it be better? Probably, but.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, no, it's good, yeah. So speaking of that, one thing I do want to share with you all, actually I don't want to share with it,
I don't know.
is we, about 2 years ago, we started a study with the traffic group, which is an independent third-party consultant to look at traffic flow and design in town of Bethany. We finally got the final report dated October 21st, so 2+ years, and that took a little, I'm just going to say it took a little bit of prodding to get the kind of product and the quality of the product that we really wanted. And hats off to Cliff and team for really pushing that. But we do have a copy of that. Our intention is to share this. We just got it. The council just got it, literally, I think yesterday in this format. It's very voluminous. I haven't even had a chance. I don't know if Teresa.
I looked at it last night. But
that
just
must
last
have been
night.
interesting reading.
Well, yeah, it was, it was a gloomy day. It seemed like everything.
There wasn't an Illinois football game
There
on,
was
obviously.
there
right.
was a basketball game, but it didn't
Okay.
go well.
But what we will do, as soon as the council gets a chance to peruse it a little bit, my intention is to share this with you electronically. But if anybody wants a paper copy, I mean, it's literally 90 pages and there's another 200 pages of data.
Yeah.
If you're into that and you want paper, we will get that for you. If you want to utilize it electronically, we will get copies of it. Again, I haven't even had a chance to look at it yet. So, but that's another tool for us to use. Okay. All right. So let's move into the next part of our agenda, which is it is flip it on, put it back on.
Can I just say something, just back to activities? Another way to get in front of people. Are you familiar, DelDOT, everybody knows the Adopt a Highway program. Well, they have Adopt a Bike Path program also. And they ask 3 times a year, a group who is willing to adopt the path takes care of the path. And you get your name on the plaque. So it's just one more way of getting the name out there. And for people who can't make the meetings but might want to contribute somehow to what we're doing, it might be something to think about.
Okay, excellent, super.
And that's DelDOT.
Okay, very good. So let's move into the next phase. So this is around, these are their areas of focus that we, as a group, right, we did a sort of introspection of what happened over the last year. And this was our team, right, going through and saying, here are the things that we really had a lot of value for. We thought they were positive. Let's go ahead and do them again and try to make them even better. So the whole workshop with our neighboring communities, we have tentatively scheduled for March 27th. We did that last year. We'll do it again. Chief has already made some inroads with that with Mariners Bethel. Ocean Debate Table, representation at all some of the town events, the J1 student workshop we've talked about, the parade, July 4th parade, the bicycle days, you call them the safety checkpoints, right?
Bike safety checkpoints.
Bike safety checkpoints. Continuing to build on our library of videos and the like that we can utilize to really highlight in a very short, concise way particular areas of focus, and obviously the partnership with Mariners Bethel. So those were just I think they were pretty inclusive, but those are the big things that we decided we want to go ahead and move forward with. And Julie mentioned a couple of those already in her review. So the first order of business, what I'd like to do is, just because of the timing of this, the next big thing on our agenda will be sort of the March 27th meeting. And the reason we want to start working on that is it does mean putting together the agenda, getting guest speakers if we want to do that, reaching out to other communities. So we have a really vibrant, I think we had 6 or 7 last time when we did it for the first time.
We did.
And
Go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
We stuck with the communities that were up and down Route 1, but I think this year we should go west and
Right.
do Ocean View and Millville as well.
Right. We were actually planting some of those seeds when we were on our bus trip the other
That's
day,
right.
or the
That's
trolley
right.
trip, I
We
should
were.
say. So let me ask the group just generally. We had DelDOT there last year, and I was sort of alluding to that. I personally would like to have them come. I think there's a lot of things on the agenda that we can talk about, that they want to share, that we can, to your point, Art, around some of these initiatives. So I'd like to have them be one of the speakers or one of the groups. Is there another one? We had the T2 group, which is the technology transfer group from University of Delaware. Is there another group that you would particularly like? You don't have to actually give an answer to that, but if there's another outside speaker, I'd really like to sort of use this as an opportunity to share what other communities are doing, but also sort of put some content on the sort of the front end, back end, which applies to all of us. So.
Yeah, the Rehoboth Lewis bikers have an entire program for bike safety and how they ride, and they usually ride long distances. And they have a protocol for how they do it, how they organize it, and they have a very good safety record. But they use that protocol all the time.
Is that, Carl, is that the Sussex
Well,
riders? Or is that different?
You know, it's probably
Sussex,
both.
what's it?
Sussex cyclists?
So we had them actually speak at one of our meetings.
Right, they did. And they're all integrated. The ones in the Lewis Rehoboth are in the
Okay.
Sussex cyclists,
Okay.
and vice versa.
Well, so my question to the group is, would you like to have somebody, a group like that come and sort of be the other end of the conversation? You know, if we have Del Dot on one end or the beginning or the end, have a group that's sort of like the Sussex Riders or whatever they're called now, or?
I think that would be helpful, because a lot of our issue is engagement
Yeah,
and teaching people what to do and how to teach them what to do. I think that could be helpful.
okay,
That's a great idea. Thanks, Carl.
okay.
Hey, just a comment, if you're going to have Del Dot as a speaker, would it be wise to have that engineering company also come and discuss what their findings are and kind of how that relates with Del Dot and some of the improvements that may be? I don't know, I haven't read that yet.
No, potentially, it would be something I think it would be something certainly that we would want to consider sharing with the other communities. The only difference, Bob, is this was actually done just for Bethany. So it wasn't the bigger view, it was really, but we could certainly, I think part of what we would share as part of our community, sharing with others that are there, we want to share whatever the tangible results of this are.
And it was really focused on actual traffic counts of cars. There are traffic counts of pedestrians and bicyclists on 26 mainly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the car study that they always
Yes.
refer to?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But to your point, Bob, there might be an opportunity to get a firm or a consultative firm, separate from the government, right, with Del Dot, to come and provide an external perspective, right? That's looking at the big picture, so we can look at that as well. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So is there anyone on the team willing to sort of jump in on this first block of work with the, I mean, I'd certainly be willing to work with the, trying to get our speakers and that all line, because we do need to get that out there, get it blocked out on people's schedules to come.
So
Would
I
anyone-
can provide email addresses for the people who came last year,
Okay,
if that's helpful to someone.
okay. So the way we sort of broke it up last time, I think, Teresa, you sort of helped focus on the community outreach piece, and I sort of did the speaker piece, and we put
Right.
the, so we're just trying to make sure if anyone else, we'll certainly be willing to do that, but if
right.
anyone else wants to jump in and help us with that piece, just to, because there's some things we just got to get rolling with now to get ready for the March date.
I'll help Teresa.
Okay, all right, Carl, excellent. Anyone want to partner with me on the speaker piece?
Go ahead.
Bob?
I would partner with you, but
Okay.
ma'am, if
No, that's good. Good. Super. Okay. So let's move into the next block of work. I'm sorry,
No,
Terry,
I just
please.
wanted to make sure everyone understands that that traffic study is just a set of recommendations.
Right.
Hasn't been vetted by anybody.
Right.
And so it may be premature to start talking about which ones we want to implement. The council hasn't, as you know, the council just got it last night. So I just wanted to make that.
Yeah, so, thank you, Terry. I was trying to make that up front. That literally no one has even seen this other than the council right now, so I'm not really sure.
No, Chief, have you seen it?
I just got it a while ago, and
So we have a lot of vetting to do before we get to the point that we
Yeah.
try to implement anything from this.
Yeah, yeah.
I took a Tylenol after reading 2 pages of it.
I'm with the
Caffeine
chief.
is helpful,
I
too.
am with the chief on that one.
So, thank you, Terry. Yeah, duly noted. The idea isn't that we're going to go out and do anything yet. We're just trying to figure out how to disseminate it a little bit and think about the learnings. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So, Bob and I will help work on the speakers, and Teresa and Carl will work on our community outreach and the like. Okay, super. So we have the date. So let's move into the next piece of work. And this is really, again, thank the whole team for putting this together. This was our idea generation workshop from from October. And again, really got great participation. The way we tried to, and Julie, thanks for putting together this nice brochure overview of what it was about. We had, our idea was to really break it down, the ideas, into sort of 3 buckets, if they would fit into those, just to sort of help segregate things. Things that are bigger, that involve sort of concrete and mortar, they're bigger, they probably involve specifically the town involvement. Administrative things that are a little bit more, can be done on a short-term basis, as well as this whole broad area around engagement, education, and behavioral. Those are just what we try to group the ideas that we got from the community into, so we can sort of work at it that way. So what I've done is taken, and again, thank everybody who was involved with that. Well, everyone was involved with their reviewing, Teresa putting it together, and our whole team providing some feedback on and adding their perspectives from the notes. What I've tried to put together is a summary of each one of those. And what I'd like us to do is, as we go through this, try to pick the things that we think we have most value to try to put time and energy on. Obviously, all of them are probably really good ideas. The issue is we only have a limited number of resources, right? So let's not overwhelm ourselves. Let's pick the ones we think we can get the biggest impact from, okay? And it doesn't really have to be done today. This is really just sort of starting the process, right? The beauty of this, too, is we're not going to lose any of these ideas, right? So even if we don't work on a particular thing, that'll be sort of our start point from when we do this again. You know, we'll just sort of have a running list and get to the ones as we have time, energy, and resources, okay? So the first one falls into infrastructure. And if I've missed anything with this, I apologize, but I was trying to go right pretty much off of the notes. I tried to maybe consolidate the wording a little bit. So additional crosswalks on Route 26, right? So that's sort of going up from the intersection here up toward Ocean View. There is some studies being done on that right now, right, on potential.
It's in there.
Right.
It's in the traffic study.
It's in the traffic study.
traffic study that DelDOT keeps referring to.
Yes, it's in there.
Because when I called them about walks, this was a couple years ago, they kept referring to a traffic study.
Well, they won't do anything without a traffic study, so, which is why the town did a traffic study, because you have to justify the need.
The data.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So one of the ideas were additional crosswalks, right? The other was a physical barrier separating the bike path from the roadway. So you have on 26 literally some kind of a something.
Flexible poles or something.
Something that to
Right.
separate the bike path from the roadway, and you actually obviously have a curb there for the,
Right.
you know, so that was an idea. A stoplight at Route 1 and Central, which I assume means right up here, another, right?
It's in lieu of the flashing
In
beacons.
lieu of the flashing beacon.
Right.
Again, folks, we're not judging any ideas. These were just what came forward, so that's what we wanted to capture. A stop,
With regard to that, and as one who drives back and forth to Seaford all the time, the DelDOT solution is not traffic lights. It's putting up an always stop sign with a red flashing light on the main thoroughfare so that everybody has to stop, and then you play the game of who goes next.
okay.
But that is the DelDOT solution, because they've done it all over the state, where they'll put up an always stop
Right.
with the red flashing
Right.
light.
Right.
Interesting.
Well,
So basically
especially,
a stop sign.
Basically, yeah, it is,
so,
for everybody.
and to Carl's point, if you think about all the development that's gone out west of us, right? All these roads, 17, all those, they used to be, you could almost go to Ocean City without a stop sign. Now you probably have 6 or 7 along that before you get to, you know, whatever the town is, Selbyville or whatever. So that's to your point. So the idea here was to put one there, even more stoplights, even north of that. So the idea, I think, was stoplights. Well, I think this was even going further up, like somewhere around the end of town, around 4th Street, 5th Street.
Right, so there are two. There were 2 suggestions, one at Route 1 in Central and one at Route 1 in one of the streets north of town.
Gotcha.
Right.
The pathway through the wetland to connect to Central Park,
Right.
Again, I'm not sure exactly how to describe that, but we're talking about the wetland back here, that if there was something built, you could then, a bike walkway, a bike pedestrian that would then basically connect you to Central Park and allow people to come this way rather than be
Right.
on 26.
So you could go east and west without having to get on 26.
Yes.
Right.
Teresa, that was a much better way of summarizing that. Thank you so much. This was like AI at work. This was like me babbling and AI saying, boom. Thank you. Widen the sidewalks on Route 26 from roughly 5 feet to 7 or 8 feet.
Right.
Question, does the town own the sidewalks, or is that still DelDOT?
It's DelDOT.
Yeah. Again, we're just getting the ideas out, right? Speed bumps on the east side of Parkwood.
Right, that came up during the candidate forum. There was a couple who was here during the candidate forum, and that was one of their ideas.
Okay.
And then Bill had an idea also that, along with that pathway, if that gets done, is to make changes to Central and Gibson to make sure there's enough space for pedestrians and cars.
Okay, so we need to add that
It's on
one.
here.
It's on here, but it's not on here.
It's not on yours,
Okay,
no.
got it.
But that's a specific sub-detail, I guess, really, to the path.
Okay. The last one was Collins and Kent bicycle pedestrian
That was a
markings.
comment. A comment was made in the last meeting that if you are walking on Kent, the way that DelDOT oriented the markings, that they're too close together and they're confusing. I'm not sure how to fix that. There's probably a standard design, and that's why it's done that way, but it was said, so it went in the minutes.
Yeah, that was my comment.
Okay.
Yeah, at the Chief's Nightmare intersection. The cars approaching onto Kent, especially if you're walking out that little side road right there, they're aiming right at you. There's no pedestrian walk onto.
Oh, so this is different, but I have on, I didn't put it here, but my list, a crosswalk across the Garfield extension.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then ideally, a sidewalk across the grass that will get you to the
Yeah.
crosswalk.
So I thought that's what that
26.
was referring.
No, this is at the actual markings. That's, the walking person and the bicycle person are too close together.
And the other one that's not up there that I want to add is, actually Bill talked about that, is actually moving the light from where it is at Kent and moving it up to
Gibson.
So we'll put that on as a potential idea. Did I say that right? Or do I need my AI expert to come in? Okay.
As you're traveling, sometimes you see an intersection where you stop back 50 feet from the intersection.
Right.
That's basically what would stop the traffic from turning on Gibson. It also stopped the traffic from all taking rights onto Kent Avenue as they're coming this way and running over people at the crosswalk.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, I got you.
pretty much unprotected. It's a crosswalk, but it's always green
Right.
when this is green.
Yeah.
So you have people turning both off of 26 starting to go west, and they turn south on Kent, and the people are in the crosswalk. There's no stop there, there's no time for those people to get.
Right.
And the same is the true for when the people are coming east and they turn south
Right.
across that crosswalk.
Okay.
So if you move that intersection back, you actually stop people from turning on Kent Avenue from 26. And the other thing is you just have to do the light so that when this turn signal turns, when you're going west on 26 and you want to go south, that stops the pedestrian traffic from walking across. Right now, it's always green.
Yeah. So,
So it'd be an always stop. It would be an always stop at that point, is what you're saying.
Well, yeah, but it would it's just a matter of placing the lights in the right spot instead of moving them up. If people get up to the intersection of Kent, they're allowed to take a right. They're also allowed to take a left on Gibson.
Oh, I see.
The last traffic study that Cliff did on Gibson and Central said that there were 1,600 cars a week during the summer that turned onto Central. And there are 3,200 cars a week that turn off of Route 1 and go on Central. And if you're going to put if you're going to put a walkway there, you have 5,000 people driving cars when you're going to have more people coming there. So it doesn't make sense to mix all this stuff in and then throw a walking path there. So that's, and I think if you think about it, there's a corridors. That corridor gets people to the beach without going on 26. Collins is another one.
Yep.
And so if you think about those corridors, that's where, if you want to think about stoplights and traffic lights and make safe crossings, you do one at Wellington, and you do one at Ocean View Parkway, and then one here. Now, Central is just an extension of this one. You have the same thing up in front of Royal Farms. You have one light, when it turns green, the second one turns green. The same thing could happen here. That allows people to get across Central. And if you're funneling people there, you want them to have a safe place across. So if you think about, there's basically three places. Ocean View, because you're leading people from that neck of the woods across the street, and they get to the beach. These two are one, basically, Central and 26, and then Wellington. Put the stoplights there, you've got three major places where people can get safely across the street under a guarded walkway.
Yeah, so the good thing is Wellington's done. There's a flashing beacon at Kent, and there's a light at Wellington.
Right. So really, what I want to do is make sure, Bill, we got your idea and suggestion on this, and what you're really highlighting too is, again, there was an idea about creating that pathway, right, from across the wetland, that if we're going to do that, that's clearly an area where, Bob, to your point around, you need the front-end loading to integrate all those things together, because you're going to have a bunch of things coming, more people, and so there's an opportunity to look at all of these together. So, okay. Exactly. So this is not one we're going to have to move on right now. There's some work going on. I just want to make sure we captured them all as is. Mayor, did you have a? No? Okay. So let's move into the next one, which is administrative options. So we had a bike rack near Town Hall. And I think when it says near Town Hall, I think it means like right here rather than across the street.
Right.
That's near Town Hall, but, right?
Sure,
Yeah.
That makes sense, at town.
Yeah,
like
at Town Hall. Signage at Route 1 and Route 26 to reduce speed of drivers. Signage at Route 1 and 26, no right turn on red. Reduce speed limits on Route 1 and 26.
So 26 is done. We did reduce the speed limit, unless people want it further. That's why I wasn't sure about that, but.
Well, can I
think the
ask a question
comment
about
came-
that?
Well, Bob, I think the comment, somebody did raise specifically making it 25. Everything
Okay,
in the town,
okay.
25.
So let's
That's why it was,
reduce the speed limit to 25.
I think, but,
Yeah, and
or
that was
maybe
Bill's
it's,
comment.
yeah.
Can I ask a question on
You
that?
sure can.
Ocean City does this. Whenever there's an event or during the summer season, they repost their speed limits. Is there any thought of doing that on 26? Hey, just during the season, it's 25.
So that would be a
Off-season, it goes back.
Del Dot decision.
Okay.
They used to do that in Dewey,
Yeah.
but not anymore.
Bob, I'm going to take your thought and just add that to sort of structural ideas and changes, because just because it's a big thing that involves Del Dot, but I don't want to lose the idea.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what category, that's why I waited
Yeah.
to this.
And it really is not so most important what category we put in, it's just, I just don't want to lose it, all right?
Right.
So but I'm just going to throw it into that one. So reduce speed, signage near bike racks focused on rules and etiquette,
Yeah, that's good.
okay?
Well, while we're talking about the bike racks, if I could just jump in. The first bullet there about bike racks near Town Hall, I think that was specified. If I remember correctly, there was also some thoughts about just doing a complete review of the bike racks that are currently in Bethany to see what's there, what's in good shape, where we might want to add other ones. So rather than just look at the one at Town Hall, maybe just do a complete review of what's available in town. You know, if we need to repair or replace some of them, great. If we need to add one here or maybe even remove one there, then so be it. But just kind of have like a holistic look at the use of the bike racks. And in turn, that could also tie into the use of signage. And again, like we talked about before, is signage. Signage is not going to solve all your problems. What signage will do is it will provide, education or guidance to people that perhaps just aren't aware. So again, if it makes a small difference in terms of people's safety, then we're ahead.
Right. No, I really like, Art, your idea of thinking about it holistically, right, rather than just the one. But help me with, and I'm just trying to remember, when we talk about bike etiquette around the bike racks, what are we speaking about?
Well, again, we're trying to
About
encourage
parking the bike or actually riding the bike?
riding the bike, parking the bike, et cetera. In other words, we want people to
Okay.
be responsible. In other words, if you put your bike in the rack, yes, you need to have some way to secure it, okay? If you are riding your bike, we should say at the very least, helmets are encouraged or mandated for kids, if that's I don't know what the law is.
Under 18.
Right, if it's under 18. So that needs to be clear, because again, I do
Okay.
see young kids out there with no helmet.
Oh,
and
there are a
that
lot of them.
concerns
So
me.
everywhere we have a bike rack, potentially,
We
you
could-
can have some type of signage that okay, that's
Right,
what we're
and
talking.
again, it's not
Got
like
it.
we're gonna
Okay.
try and drive 30 points home to people. I think
Right,
what
we
we
have
do
to
is.
pick like 4 or 5.
Right, right.
Yeah.
In other words, again, maybe have a little, I don't know, maybe a little graphic that's cute,
Got-
like a dolphin or something to kind of just catch people's eye. Well, again, it's a marketing campaign, because what we're trying to do is drive communication through.
Okay.
So that's a thought. And if I could, I'm still rambling here.
No, it's good. This is
If we
awesome.
talk about lights, adding lights in, I think, again, we talked as an aside here, and I think it's important, is especially in the off-season, that we review some of these lights, and as opposed to having them on a timer, have them on a tripwire, because that would make things a lot easier. Because again, especially like people that are out running, biking, you really hate to have to stop for a light turning on an automatic cycle, when there's nobody there. I mean, like I said, when I bike down to Fenwick, okay, when I get out of South Bethany down by York Beach Mall and York Road, there, in the off-season, there is hardly ever anybody coming through there.
Yeah.
But again, that light is timed, from what I can tell.
Okay.
And in turn, then, every time it turns red, yes, I've got to stop or at least slow down to try and time it.
Okay.
So I think in some instances, if we are going to put more lights in, or even maybe look at the lights that are there, again, if we would have to get DelDOT involved, obviously, but it would be worth perhaps seeing if we could perhaps put some of these lights on tripwires, because again, that would actually benefit the drivers that are coming from those roads on
Yeah.
the side as well, because again, if you hit the tripwire, then theoretically that will speed up the process of the light changing for
Yep.
you, as opposed to you having to wait through which could be a fairly long cycle.
Right. It
So
does
these are
seem-
just a few thoughts.
No, and I like that thought. Some of these intersections have them. You can see where it's caulked, the asphalt is caulked. It's just a matter of how they time it. I think those tripwires are there in most circumstances. Am I wrong about that?
No, so they are, and that's part of the argument I had with DelDOT specifically regarding Kent Avenue. They came out and recalibrated them, and they're on point. The problem is when you come up to an intersection, cars aren't stopping where they're supposed to, which is defeating the purpose of those tripwires. They're edging forward because they're getting antsy, and then they're off the tripwire, and then the light never turns green. So we see people all the time violate the red light for that reason right here at Kenton 26, wee hours of the morning, and it's more of a stop and educate rather than a ticket. But they're like, well, I was sitting there for a minute and a half. It happens coming out of St. Anne's. If you come out of St. Anne's parking lot, make a left or right, because their rear license plate is on that white solid line off the trip marker. So there's weighted things in the roadway that I've mentioned to DelDOT. They heard me and they came out and calibrated them and they said it's fine. So that's just human nature not adhering to the rules and going past that stop line and not setting the trip off. That's all that is. So what you might see down in York Beach Mall, I know exactly what you're talking about because it's gotten me a couple times too. There was probably a vehicle there a minute before you passed through that got antsy, and then they said, the heck with it, I'm going to take a right and pull a U-turn and go around, and they tripped it, and then you got the effect from that trip. That's usually what happens.
Okay.
But they're not on time cycles. I can tell you how many times I've sat out here at 1 or 2 in the morning, and a light just happens to trip, and then you see a vehicle going back and forth, trying to set off the motion, and it works. Give them a thumbs up for, when they pass, but you can kind of see it at 1 or 2 in the morning. It's still on those sensors. It's not a time-activated thing.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, again, it just gets frustrating when you're going down there and it's like the middle of,
Yeah.
the off-season, there's nobody there, and all of a sudden you got to hit your brakes because it's
Yeah,
turned
it is a long
red.
light.
Yeah,
It is a long light.
so, okay. Well, thank you for the information. I appreciate that.
There are times when I'm walking by there and I see that, and I push the crosswalk
We
sign,
do that too.
even though whether I go on it or not. And that crosswalk is still much too short, though. DelDOT's got that wrong. And somebody, if anybody is, I mean, especially if people pile up and they're waiting to walk across 26, with kids and bikes and everything, that light is done before they get across the street. It's never long enough.
So the light, it's just a guidance for your safety. When that light activates, you walk across. I'm from Boston. I'm from the city. If that light is not white with the hand sign, I'm not walking because I'm going to get hit. So the light is just a guide. Pedestrians have the right to cross those intersections, but they must yield to traffic, whether it's stopped, moving, or turning from different directions. So the lights, I don't think the town has any control over the lights. That's a DelDOT issue, but they won't listen to our argument unless there's stat-based driven data, i.e. accidents, pedestrians, a child gets run over, then they're gonna come out here the next day and do something about it. But if it's a minor inconvenience, DelDOT doesn't really see it. The minor inconveniences are the major things that we as a police department have to worry about, to be honest with you. I put the accountability on somebody else as a police chief because I want to make sure I'm doing my job. So DelDOT has kind of sensed that and said, okay, well, he's obviously adamant about this. We're going to go out here and inspect it on July 8th. And then we found out that one of our officers didn't trip the light. So I looked like a fool. However, I took accountability for that, and they like that. So the more that we hound them, they listen, but we have to have actual facts to back that up. So DelDOT says, listen, it was July 4th weekend. There was 175, people that crossed the intersection every minute and a half. We already checked the sensors and they work. If we do it in January, they don't really listen. They just know it's more of a concern and passionate matter for us in the summertime.
Okay, good. This one came in actually right after our workshop, so I assume it was somebody who wanted to come. They wanted to eliminate having, or allow bikes on sidewalks on 26.
In lieu of the, yes, because they don't feel like the bike lane on 26 is safe.
Right.
So the bike lane on 26 is 5 feet. The challenge with that one is it's uneven ground, right? Because some of it is the concrete gutter and some of it is the asphalt. So you don't want to ride in the middle because then you're on the seam and you're off balance. So it's not the width as much as it's just it's poorly designed.
Yeah. So again, I just wanted to, again,
but that's-
respect all the person's comment getting
Right.
up here.
But that's the reasoning behind the comment, because the person's not comfortable with, I think it was a gentleman, he and his family, they're not comfortable on that bike lane on
Yeah.
26.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think there is, though, Chief, you can, as a little bit of research I did do on this, it looks like if there's a bike lane next to
Teresa, help them.
a sidewalk.
A curb, oh, right,
If there's a sidewalk, a bike lane, and a road,
yeah.
bikes have to be in the bike lane, not, so that's
Correct.
the part of Delaware law. So we're just following Delaware law right now.
Yeah, the bike lane, it just provides, like I said before, when you're in Ocean View, you go over the bridge into Ocean View, there's no pictures on the ground of where you live, where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
In Bethany, we have a picture of a pedestrian walking this way, a
Yeah,
bike
yeah.
riding this way. It's very bike and pedestrian friendly. I can tell you, right, I'll probably get in trouble for this one. Most of the people that we see on bikes on the sidewalk, now it might be a random student or teenager going to Wawa, and their fastest direction is just to go this sidewalk here on the south side of 26. Most of the things that we see is a young 5, 6, I have a 5 and a 9-year-old. I'm not letting them ride their bike, I'll tell you right now. I'm not letting them ride their bike on the shoulder of 26, given a bike lane.
Right.
There's too much distractions out there. Those are the people that we see routinely on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And people pick up on that, and mom and dad are in the bike lane carrying their bikes going to the beach. And then pedestrians see that, and they're aware of that, and they kind of step in the grass and let them pass.
Right.
That we are okay with.
Yeah.
Now, it's against the law, but something like
Right,
that
right.
is we're okay with.
Right.
Now, if it's a 15-year-old kid with a speaker in his basket blaring the radio going the opposite direction of Wawa at 1 in the morning, we're going to stop it and do that.
Right.
I think that's where the question may have been with the bikes on the sidewalks and the issue of enforcement and education, stuff like that.
And Bill followed up on that. His suggestion was that I think that's where the widening the sidewalk came from, right? From 5 feet to 8 feet? Right.
Yep. So, okay, good.
If it was a perfect world, I don't know about the measurements of the sidewalks. I don't know if that's town or state. But if we could have an 8-foot, 11-foot sidewalk where there was a picture of it with a pedestrian and a kind of like Collins, where it's, this is where the bikes go and this is where the
Right.
pedestrians go to get off the roadway, I think that would be a perfect scenario. I just don't know if we can do
Right.
that.
I don't know if we can do it either, but it'd be nice if it could be incorporated at least along the park.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, ideas, we have them all captured. This is good, and good conversation, so we understand.
And just to comment on that, for the police chief, it can't be an either or, because it's not the bicyclist anymore. It's the kids on those electric scooters flying down on those sidewalks. When you have people trying to walk their dogs, you know, the groups, they're together. It's difficult to be an either or, to allow something.
So let me just be clear, Bob. So, and listening to the chief, a kid flying down on the sidewalk on a scooter, if he's seen by Chief Foley, he's probably going to get a
Ticket.
yeah. I mean, to your point, I mean that's not the gray area. The gray area are the kids on a tricycle or
Right.
training wheels, right?
Right. If traffic is bumper to bumper at 5:15 on a Saturday night because we're directing traffic at St. Anne's and a moped gets on the sidewalk and goes down the sidewalk, we are certainly going to stop it, enforce it, and give us
Yeah.
citation, and probably tow the moped. We have discretion. It's one of my favorite words to use is discretion because it can get us out of a lot of trouble. I've said this again, and I'll say it 100 times. One of the worst things I've ever done as a police officer is stop a 5-year-old kid and his dad and give him a written warning for riding his bike on the sidewalk. And the dad just says, listen, this is what I'm trying to do. I know you have a job to do, and I felt this big. I will never make my officers do that, especially for a little child. But if it's an ongoing nuisance, one, we can't be everywhere at every single time, and it's unsafe for my officers to stop and put their lights on and put their sirens on and cause chaos to pull over a bicyclist on a sidewalk in a heavy, busy traffic day. It's very embarrassing to do, and it's not a good reflection that I want as a police chief for my officers to do. But we are aware of the issue. I can tell you right now, the officers, I'm very good at deflating bombs before they go off. One of the bombs I saw going off were electric scooters. I had officers in certain areas writing written warnings. Most of them were J1 students, and most of them were given those electric scooters by American employees who didn't know the law. So they were kind of thrown to the wolves there. We wrote them written warnings, and I have a stack of them. If anybody wants to argue it, I have a stack June, July, and August ready to go. I feel like that's a moot point now because it's going to be a new summer, but that is what we as the police department do. We all understand. We're all on the same page with the community. We try to diffuse the bombs before they go off. Unfortunately, there's a couple little ones that, happen to go off when we're not looking. That's part of the problem that we have and that everybody else sees and that we're held accountable for.
Yep. Thank you, Chief. So that
Wait,
sort of built.
I have one question for the chief. Electric scooters are banned in Delaware, is that correct?
Electric scooters are illegal in the state of Delaware. So again, it's a very difficult thing to enforce. And when I mean enforce, I mean write a ticket to. You can go to Washington D.C., download an app on your phone,
And rent one.
and rent one on the side of the sidewalk. I just did it in Nashville. You can do it in Boston. You can do it in Philadelphia. Where are all our vacationers coming from?
Yeah.
Where it's legal. So we don't want to say, hey, pull over here, you're getting a $96 ticket for being on a scooter. Well, I didn't know, it's legal where I'm from. It's very difficult for us to do, which, again, education first. That's what we try to do. So it's difficult to enforce something where it's legal in all surrounding states.
States, yeah.
If that makes sense. Gambling, that's another type thing. You know, it's illegal everywhere except for Delaware. Same thing with electric scooters. It's just, if they made it legal, we probably wouldn't have the problem, to be honest with you, you know? But there's reason above us that they are illegal, and I think it's more upstate.
Yeah, they're a menace. Those electric scooters in DC are a menace.
They go 25, 30 miles per
Yeah.
hour, and all their weight is
Yeah.
towards the front of the electric scooter. If they hit a little pebble or a crack on the road, they're done. It's going to be a fatal accident.
Yeah,
I'll tell
and
you right
people
now.
leave them just randomly.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
On the sidewalks, right?
Yeah.
The next two items that we have up there really refer to what the chief's referring to. I mean, this was enhanced police enforcement, and Chief, you're talking about what you're already doing and the like, so recognizing there's a fine line with that.
So
I love your diffusing the bomb analogy.
yeah.
I think that's really the idea. That's the leading indicator to
Right.
prevent the serious injury or incident from taking place by engaging with people
Sure.
and using your authority to do it.
Yep.
I mean, that's,
I'm still passionate about this. I'm sorry, but the last meeting, I felt like the police department was in the hot seat for not enforcing actions, and we were kind of criticized for educating over actions. The next thing on the agenda, the seasonal police officers, 80% that they do, I can show you the body cameras, 80% of what they do is education and information. And then the rest is irritating me and arresting the criminals. So the 80% that they do, it's education of the laws and information of anything with the town. So they are walking information tools. If you ever see them up there, what time do the dolphins come out? What time is sunset? What time sunrise? Where can I get a cup of coffee? They know everything, and they're out there in the front line.
Yep.
All they do is educate and update the laws as like moving information boots.
right. So when you have an item like that, right, Chief, and I appreciate your, the way you characterized it. I felt like I was being, what'd you say, taking shots at or something last meeting?
Yeah.
Well, part of that then falls on us to think about how can we educate people to recognize that they are actually doing exactly what we want them to do, right? So let's align the facts with perception, right? Because the perception is they're not, but they are, so that's great. That's one we already got, but we need to, how do we communicate that, and how do we recognize people?
Yeah, just
and-
that maybe they should be the face of the clips, the video clips.
Yes, there you
Interview
go.
them.
Perfect, yep.
So, Mr. Hinman, you mentioned this maybe a year or two ago about positive education and enforcement. I've started doing that with like officers. Our policy is to review officers' random body cameras of complaints, interactions, traffic stops, tickets, whatever it may be. And there's so many things that this new administration is picking up on that our officers are doing. I've showed it before where we're pulling over J1 students at 1:15 in the morning.
Yep.
Giving them bike lights, and the officer's dripping sweat on the side of the road, installing a bike light, and his hands and knees covered in grease. I think what we're going to do moving forward is take screenshots of those body cameras and put it all over our social media and show the world.
That's awesome.
This is what we're doing. We did it with one of our officers installing a car seat on a single mother traveling. I cried watching the body camera. He got out of his vehicle and installed a car seat, and I shared it on a social media page. It got more views than anything the lost puppy I mentioned before was the biggest thing. This surpassed it. WBOC called us. They wanted to interview the officer. He respectfully declined. It was massive. It was viral around here. I think that's what we're going to start doing to defuse the bombs.
Right.
Yeah.
Super.
Also, I think it's important to mention that in the last March seminar we did, all of the other towns are doing the same things, education instead of enforcement. So it's not just us, it's just more effective. Everyone in this area has decided it's more effective.
Yeah, yeah. So one that Mark and Art added in comments afterwards were around metrics, adding metrics. And I just took it a little bit further and saying leading indicator metrics, the things that are really, there's a lot of metrics, right? But what are the ones that sort of tell us whether we're hidden point or where there's bombs that need to be diffused, if you're using chiefs. So a lot of nice work we can do around the metrics piece. So Art and Mark, who's at a dentist right now, thank you for sharing that. So last thing I want to do, and I want to be respectful of people's time. Again, I think this thing goes to sleep after a while. If you just go to the next one, Will, that would be great. Education, engagement. Thank you. Again, the intent here is not for us to decide what we're going to work on. I just want to give us this opportunity to have this discussion together around what we heard from the community, and then over the next couple months, we can now start to piece this together. So I've taken exactly what Teresa put together and just tried to group it a little bit in terms of common ones. So there was a lot around bicycles. One was discourage side-by-side biking, right? So I guess it means when you're going up 26 or when you're going down Pennsylvania, not having two people
Side by side.
side by side. Sometimes that's okay, sometimes it's not, right? Passing etiquette and enhanced attentiveness were things that sort of fell into that bicycle piece. Around communication, sharing safety statistics, some focused ads in Coastal Point and other venues, engage with TV and radio broadcasters, coordinate handouts with local bike shops, safety program at the South Coastal Library, hold short safety events, rules, procedures, and expectations communicated, waive packets and rental packages were sort of the ideas. Again, I don't think I've added anything, I just sort of regrouped them a little bit. And then lastly, greater awareness while opening car doors. So that's a driver opening a door while a biker's coming by. Training for usage of the rapid rectangular flashing beacons. Conduct a safe traffic study for Atlantic and Pennsylvania intersections specifically. More engagement with second homeowners. What is that?
So people who are not renters, who own but don't live here full-time.
Okay.
Right, so they wouldn't get the rental packet.
Gotcha. Okay,
So
thank you.
like HOA meetings.
HOA meetings, gotcha.
Again, if you were, again, I think that's a great thing, and we talked about perhaps getting information like about the, you know, the safety checkpoints. Like if we knew they were going to be on like July 20th and August 3rd, then we could kind of use that as like a hook to get ourselves into discussions at HOA meetings, which
Right.
many times happen in the month of May. And in turn, it would allow us to kind of get a foothold there and have, you know, other discussions with them. So I think that's where this was headed. Maybe
Right.
if others got a different take on it.
No, that's good. That's actually where Bob, a couple times at our board meetings or community meetings in Bethany West, we were talking about subjects. You were insightful, had input, thought right around.
Well,
this
that
subject.
was that,
So,
the quarterly update.
yeah, yeah.
And that, you know, for the summer months, put a blurb right in there. and
Yeah, yeah, yep.
Shoot it out to the biggest community in Bethany, is Bethany West.
Yep. And then the last one was increase personal responsibility for the larger community, helping the cause. So I think the idea was getting other people to sort of take the messages we're trying to share and share with their family, their friends, right? So we're all in this together. It was this whole idea around accountability and responsibility, and I think somebody even raised entitlement or something was a concept that got raised. But I think that's all rolled together. Is that-
Yes.
Okay. And then T-shirts with safety messages were the other ones, was the other idea that came out.
Right, the
One
former
other
mayor
thing.
has one of those. If you
Yes.
can read this, you're walking on the wrong side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
She's not listening.
Yeah. If you can read this, you're walking the wrong way.
Yeah, if you can read your T-shirt, if you can read this, you're walking the wrong way.
I like
So-
that, I do like that.
So, just in the interest of where we are time-wise, because I've kept you a little longer than I really wanted to, we've gone through all the major areas we're going to work on. We've had an opportunity to have some discussion about the feedback we got at the community idea generation, right? That's just what we went through. What I'd ask you to do over the next month or two is just try to, and we can do this offline, just highlight the things that you think are worth putting time and energy with on this list. I wouldn't focus as much on the structural ideas. We've got those. We'll certainly share those with council and the
Yep.
like, of just ideas, because these are bigger ticket items. But particularly the administrative options and engagement behavior, how can we incorporate those things in? One of the things that I was talking to Julie the other day, and I'm more of a visual person, but this was something that she and Brad put together, right? Thinking, and this is all, and guess what, folks? We are on now Wave 3.0, right? That's a new milestone when we go to 2025. So Dan can't be here, but we're on Wave 3.0. But every one of these topics that we have highlighted in red are something we could do a short video. We could do some kind of connect with. It might be 15 seconds, right? And then utilize all these avenues, like Julie was talking about, to help reinforce, to get out there. Whether it's at a movie, whether it's when people are pulling up the app, when they're pulling up the website. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we could take from these behavioral changes and think about how we can communicate that. So
That's what I was going to say. Just judging by the success of the WAVE brochure, I think we should have one for bicyclists. And I looked at the engagement behavioral changes here. There are 8 different things that could be addressed just through developing a brochure that you could put in the bike shops, pass out at the Ocean to Bay bike ride or any other bike ride, at the checkpoints that we have during the summer. I would think if you're a bicycle, as the Coles are up there passing out bikes to tourists, that they want people to know, the safety things here, so they get their bikes back in good shape. So I think that we should focus on that.
Okay.
No, I think that's great. And again, we talked about the signage by the bike racks. And again, all this stuff, again, we go back to the holistic approach.
Absolutely.
But if we can
Yep.
get this stuff to dovetail, it'll save us a lot of time, energy, and continue to drive the message home. And again, we previously talked about maybe having like tear sheets.
Right.
That's,
I think the
that-
tear sheets in the brochure are the
Right, it's basically the same thing. But again, like I said, if we can just, and it doesn't have to be, 45 things.
No, no.
It could be just like, be aware, don't be thinking about other things when you're out biking, Think about the people when you're coming up from behind them. Let them know
Right.
that you're passing them. Be aware of this, be aware. I mean, it doesn't have to be extensive, but again, just a few points that we drive home could really make a real difference in people having a safe and fun time here.
Right.
Because it doesn't take much to have a mess.
Right.
So anyway, again, I think we can tie all this together in terms of a larger plan. And again, Wave 3.0 might include, again, not only, I mean, this one I think is primarily pedestrians. Is that right? So again, whatever we do, maybe you have a broader umbrella now so that we include bikers, that we think about, people jogging, that we think about drivers, so that we kind of make this a more inclusive, big picture umbrella in terms of Wave, because I think the concept's great. It's just a matter of just trying to expand it a little bit to make it all fit together.
Right.
Is that-
Right. Thank you, Art. Bob?
Just the Wave 3.0, and I just thought of this. Being when we would come here, the best piece of information you would pick up would be the Wave or Coastal Point. Do we have the ability of being able to put things in those newspapers? Hey, but, whatever events we're doing, or bicycle safety?
We do.
Well,
It's on the list.
Okay.
Yeah. Bob, the reason I was laughing, because there's been no
Yes.
short, I wish I had $1 for every time when we were talking about WAVE at some of these community gatherings, and we've got a table and somebody says, I am just sick and tired of that publication. You guys don't have enough content in that. And they're thinking about the WAVE paper,
Yeah.
not the WAVE. It's fun, but that's sort of what.
Well, that's why I
Yeah,
reminded
I
me.
know.
We also had somebody at the 4th of July parade a couple years ago who confused us with the radio station.
Yeah, that too, yeah.
The Wave.
So, okay, So here's what I'd like you all to do. Let's think about, this has been a really great dialogue again. Thank you for sharing your ideas and perspectives.
Thanks for putting this together, though. The list is great.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Thanks
we
to
all,
everyone.
the
It was a
community started it, and all
effort.
we've done is sort of distill it and put some context into it, so that's really important. So just give this some thought. What we'll try to do is capture a couple ideas that came out today, but I'd ask each of you, just share with each other, right, in preparation for our next meeting, just some of the ones you'd like to talk about. For example, there's one around this whole, and it's sort of an integrative approach, but Art was talking about with, rather than just deal with adding a bike rack here, let's check where all of them are. Let's check the condition. Where are there other gaps? That would be a great idea, for example, right?
Right,
We
again,
can
it's the
move
same,
forward.
if we're trying to, we talk about town, and sometimes there are too many signs, and we
Yeah.
don't want to have just,
Right.
an overwhelming amount of information thrown at people.
Right.
But if there are things that are effective, let's see if, again, cross-town-wise, we've got that message delivered
Right.
consistently. So if it's like all in the south, but there needs to be more on the north side of town, then so be it.
Yeah, but I was just using that as an example of something that as we put all this together and talked about it, that sort of boiled up as something it sounds like we have some interest in doing, right? So I just ask each of you individually, or if you want to get together and have coffee, to just share with you what are the ideas that you'd like to put forward, and when we come together, the next meeting, we can decide our plan. Okay? Does that make sense? So the last one is just the tentative dates we put together for 2025. These are just snapshots. They typically fall after the week after the council meeting.
So no meeting in January.
That might be good. Well, we could do our meetings with ourselves.
Yeah, and I'll send these all out to everybody. I'll send the deck out to everybody, too.
Two of us working together, yeah.
We can add a January meeting. Would you like to? I was more thinking just with the
No.
holidays and everything else, but if, I was trying to give you all a gap to,
So I'm assuming there's no December meeting?
No,
No, okay,
because it would be
Wanna be
right, it
sure.
would be right around the holiday,
right.
right?
Yeah, as long as we've got time to prepare for the community sharing workshop, I mean, again, if people are doing the work behind the scenes,
Yeah.
if it's
So-
presented on
Right.
the 27th of February, I think that should be
It should be.
sufficient.
if we put one in January, that last,
I don't know if I mean, I think Art's onto something as long as we are getting the invitations out for March. I don't know that we need to sit here and hold a meeting to confirm that's happening,
okay,
right?
we can work offline.
Again,
And we
if
can be
there
working in
was-
pairs of two or whatever to
Right.
get our highlights. in.
Absolutely.
And just share it with
Nothing's
the
getting
group.
done in December.
Yeah, I mean, if you could, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No.
No, I'm just thinking if the two groups that are tasked with
Right.
trying to help lay the groundwork
Right.
for the meeting, if they are moving forward, there's no issues, they
Right.
don't need help with anything, and they kind of just maybe send an email message out to the larger group saying, hey, here's everything, we're rolling,
Okay.
great. And if there does appear to be problems, let us know, and maybe we can jump in to help.
Okay.
But again, I'm thinking by the mid-February, or certainly by the 27th, everything should be pretty well lined
Should
up.
be.
Yeah.
And that's a month ahead of time.
Yeah.
Right.
So that meeting would really be focusing on whatever else we need to do to prep for the community meeting. But then it's also looking through a little bit more detail, our plan for 2025, getting back to our spreadsheet with who's going to do what, when, and how.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was
That's
helpful
where we
this
can start
year.
to fill that out and.
Right. Because again, it's just nice to, again, if we can see that, for example, we're going to be doing the Mariners Bethel program again, and we're going to be doing the, Ocean to Bay bike tour or whatever.
Right.
So then people have an idea, and
Right.
again, we ask people, are you have the time to support this? And in
Right.
turn, then we can schedule accordingly. So we just kind of just line up the resources against the activities, and I think that really works. But again, rather than scrambling like 2 weeks before, if we can, just kind of map this out.
Right.
I think that would be helpful.
Right, and that's what I was really thinking about for February, is to start to take a first shot at mapping all that out. Because we have all the ideas we want to work on. We're going to have sort of the ideas that you all have from the community input. What else do we want to add to that, right? For example, if we do something with a bike rack survey, right? Okay, how are we going to do it? When are we going to do it? Who's going to be involved? That kind of thing. We can just add those to it, and that'll be beginning of that whole plan for the rest of 2025, Art, to your point, right?
Well, I'm guessing Teresa's working on plans for, well, the town is working on plans to support various activities, you know, whether it's this festival or that festival. But I'm guessing by the February meeting, there's probably going to be a list.
You mean Julie? Or
Oh, Julie, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Julie is putting in.
It's a big enough job, it probably takes about 4 people, but
But by February, I'm guessing that you'll probably have a list of the activities and the dates that are planned for most of those activities for 2025. So at that point, then we can start to create the spreadsheet and to start to
Right.
map stuff out, which I think would be helpful.
Right.
And I'm guessing with these brochures, you know, the WAVE brochures, I see them in various locations, that there's already somebody that's regularly checking those supplies and.
Yeah, I just ordered 500 more.
Okay, great.
Great, super. Let me open it back up for the community or any other folks that are here. I want to thank Rich, one of our other council members, for being here. I really appreciate, we try to support each other on these, so it's always great. And Christy and Terry and Will, always for your efforts with it. And Brian went out and got us some food and beverage this morning. Our former mayor, and Bill. So any comments from the? Okay. Thank you again. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Second?
Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
That brochure for biking, for the bikers, is great. I mean,
Thank